This was me last spring, and this is me now. It wasn't magic, there is no big secret. It was simple principles applied over a long enough period of time to get results. Trust me, you can do the exact same thing if you want to, and I'm gonna teach you how in today's video. This is not the 75 hard challenge. I mean, if you want to do 75 hard, go ahead, that's none of my business. This nutrition challenge is designed to give you the tools you need to lose fat in a sustainable, healthy, balanced way without losing your mind. I'm gonna give you all the principles I use to lose 15 pounds and give you a free downloadable nutrition cheat sheet with lots of minimally processed food options you may want to think about incorporating into your diet. This is not a quick fix. These are tools you can take with you for the rest of your life. Healthy nutrition habits can help us to feel more energized, reduce our risk of disease, increase our lifespan and longevity, and fat loss is really just an added bonus on top of all of those things. This program is part of a series, and you can use this program alongside a 75-day fitness challenge and a 75-day wellness challenge that I will link up here as soon as those videos are live. Designing your challenge. You can think of this video as a menu of ideas of things that you may want to incorporate into your lifestyle as you find what works for you. So there's a lot of different ways that you could take this 75-day challenge and make it work for you and your lifestyle. Maybe you want to incorporate a new habit every week or every couple of weeks, or even just as you're able to, so that by the end of the challenge, you've integrated a few new habits into your lifestyle that can help you to get results for fat loss. Maybe you want to go all in and pick a few habits, or if you want to go super crazy, all of them, and try to adhere to these things from day 1 all the way through day 75. I will be completing this challenge alongside you, which I'm super excited about, and I'm really just focusing on using these 75 days to push myself to really build or rebuild some of these healthy habits for my nutrition that will help aid my fat loss goals, because I find time challenges to just be really motivating and fun. Fat loss is simple, but not easy. We have a ton of science on this, and really everything comes down to an energy deficit. Actually, achieving that deficit is where things can get a little complicated, but we'll get to that in a second. If we consume more energy than we burn, we will gain tissue as muscle, fat, or a combination of both. If we burn more energy than we consume, we'll have to use our existing tissue to fuel ourselves. So technically, we can lose fat without exercising at all by just modifying our nutrition. And many people find that the nutrition side of things is actually the most important for them during their fat loss journey. If you love food like I do, hearing that is really scary, but I promise we're gonna make this as painless as possible. So to get our net energy balance equation, we have 2 parts: calories in, what we're eating, minus calories out, what we're burning. If this number, net calories, is positive, then we will gain tissue. The energy that we consume has to go somewhere. It can't just vanish into thin air. So that's why we store it as fat or muscle on our body. If this number is negative, then we need to use our existing tissue to meet the energy demands of our body. And we could get into the world of metabolic adaptations and all of the crazy and amazing things our bodies can do to try and maintain homeostasis, but that's a topic for another day. Calories out is also known as our total daily energy expenditure, or TDEE, sometimes called our maintenance calories. Here's a quick overview of the components of total daily energy expenditure, some of which we can kind of work with and manipulate. Our basal metabolic rate is the energy it takes our body to just exist at rest. Next is the thermic effect of food, or the energy that our body burns digesting our food. Then we have non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which is a really fancy word for the calories we burn moving around in our day-to-day life, standing up, sitting down, cleaning, preparing dinner, things like that. And then of course, exercise activity is the calories that we burn while exercising. Although it's not technically necessary to lose fat, I'm a huge fan of incorporating fitness into any fat loss program to really accelerate results and to improve our overall health and well-being. If you're interested in that, I will link the fitness plan up here so you can check that out. So we need to start with an estimate of our maintenance calories, or the amount of calories we can consume each day without gaining or losing any weight, in order to figure out what our deficit should be. And whether or not you actually want to track, I find it really helpful to know what a deficit range would be for your daily intake. That way you kind of know what changes you want to make in your lifestyle to try and reach your goals, even if you don't want to track your calories every single day. For example, if you found out your ideal deficit was like 200 calories or something like that, you could know maybe like, okay, if I make one healthy swap for this bag of chips to have some carrots instead, that would cover me for the day, or things like that, you know? So even if you don't want to track really meticulously, I still find maintenance calories and calculating a deficit to be really helpful for me personally. There are tons of calculators online. I personally like using the Mueller equation, and I'll link info on that down below. You do need to know your body fat percentage for that, so I'll link an estimator for that as well in case you want to estimate that, but keep in mind these calculators are not a perfect science, and we can use this as a starting point and adjust over time as needed. You also could technically track your intake for a couple of weeks and see at the amount of calories you're eating per day when you're not gaining or losing any weight, but I don't have time for that, and I figured you probably don't too, so I find these estimators are a really good place to start. Now that we've got our maintenance, we need to figure out a calorie deficit. There's a lot of information out there about calculating a deficit, but I'll tell you my approach and why. I like to take a pretty conservative approach because I want to maintain as much muscle as possible during fat loss, and I want to make these results sustainable, long lasting. So For those reasons, I like to use a 10 to 20% deficit from our maintenance level. So I would take my daily maintenance calories and multiply by 0.8 or 0.9, and anywhere in that range would be a good amount for a deficit, at least as a starting point. Like I said, we can adjust this over time. There's a lot of nuance here, and we could make this a lot more complicated if we wanted to, but honestly, I don't have time for that. You don't have time for that. I do have a lot of these principles built into a calculator that's available in the Radiant Health and Fitness community, but in terms of like doing it all by hand, it's a no-go. It may sound counterintuitive, but for me, tracking was actually really freeing and helpful because when I wasn't tracking, I was really restrictive about the types of food I could eat. So I always told myself, you have to eat healthy foods. And whenever I would have something unhealthy like cake or cookies or things like that, I would feel really guilty. Eventually, I even realized that I hadn't been in enough of a deficit to actually see the results I wanted. And as soon as I started tracking, I was able to get into that deficit pretty easily and start seeing results very quickly. That's kind of the problem with not tracking, is that you don't really know what you need to change. And you can definitely experiment to get where you want to go, but I just found it to be really difficult for me. Once I did start tracking, I learned a lot about the foods I was eating, which were really calorie dense, which were less calorie dense, how full I felt eating these foods, which were the most satisfying, and I've been able to kind of craft my day to help me reach my goals, but also feel satisfied. I've been tracking daily for about the last 3 months. I think for people who do have a good relationship with food, if tracking is like a viable option for you, it's something that's really helpful to do for a short period of time, just to get a sense of where you're at right now, where you want to go. And personally, I'm not going to track my calories forever. I'm going to track my calories during fat loss, and once I'm in maintenance phase, I'm going back to just kind of like eating more intuitively. So you don't have to track your calories during this challenge if you don't want to, but it is just a tool that I wanted to surface and chat a little bit about because I found for me it was really, really effective. But you can use the principles we'll talk about in the rest of this video outside of tracking if you'd like to. My first tip is to find a buddy to do this challenge with if possible. If you can't find a buddy, that's fine because I will be doing the challenge alongside you, so I can kind of be your accountability buddy. But finding someone to embark on this journey with, whether it's fitness, nutrition, or really any change you want to make in your life, makes it so much more fun. And if they are a good accountability buddy, they will actually hold you accountable to what you set out to do. And I find that that can really push me and motivate me to stick to my goals. I know a lot of times we don't have these people in our day-to-day lives, like friends or family, that would want to do this type of thing with us, which is part of the reason why I created the Radiant community, because I wanted to bring together a group of people who all had similar goals so that we could work together on those goals and support each other. But you could also ask a friend to join you if you have someone who would be interested, or you could leave a comment down below to see if anyone wants to be your accountability buddy. But if you can, I find it really helpful. This tip was so helpful for me. Prioritize instead of restricting. I'm not even saying this because I want you to have more balance, be happier, or enjoy your life more. I mean, I do want that for you, but I'm saying this purely just from a results standpoint. It will get you better results. I would highly discourage you from putting any foods off limits or restricting. There's a lot of research on the psychology of this that shows when we put a certain food off limits, we want it so much more, we crave it, and when we do get it, we eat a lot more of it, so we tend to binge or overeat on it compared to if we just never restrict it in the first place. Of course, the restriction binge cycle is bad for our goals and results and our mental health. It just feels terrible, and it's definitely something that I think we all want to avoid. It was really hard for me at the start to let go of this all or nothing mentality of like, I can't have anything unhealthy, like ultra processed, high calorie, but not putting anything off limits was actually one of the things that helped me fast track my results. And what I did was prioritize certain foods instead of cutting anything out. So essentially I ate more low calorie, high volume, like minimally processed foods and foods that were high in fiber and protein. And since I was prioritizing these foods that were really filling and satiating and were more aligned with helping me reach my fat loss goals, I could still enjoy these high calorie, ultra processed foods, but I could enjoy them in moderation since I was filling up on these other foods. So you're probably wondering now, okay, sure, I'll prioritize, but what foods should I prioritize? I'm gonna walk you through the foods that I prioritized and why. The fat loss food trifecta, as I call it. First is fiber, which you can get from fruits, veggies, and whole grains. Fiber is essential for gut health, and there's a lot of evidence it's really important for our digestion. And I know personally, I've noticed that my stomach has been a lot flatter ever since having more fiber in my diet. High fiber foods help us to feel more full and satisfied compared to foods with little fiber, and ultra processed foods tend to have very little fiber, which is part of the reason why I could probably like eat 2 full large pizzas without breaking a sweat. We just don't tend to feel very full eating ultra processed foods because first of all, they're very palatable and they taste amazing. But second of all, they tend not to have very much fiber. The next type of food I prioritize is protein. Protein is essential for us maintaining muscle during fat loss, and of course, if you do want to build muscle, which would be a totally separate goal and video, it would be essential for that as well. It's important for a lot of processes in our body and our overall health. I like to target between 1.2 to 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. There's no harm, at least that I could find in my research, from having a little bit more than that. Protein is very, very satiating compared to the other types of macronutrients. Protein Protein is also very difficult for our bodies to break down. It takes about 20 to 30% of the net calories from the protein itself we burn trying to break down the protein. So net, we only get about 70 to 80% of the calories of protein because our body spends so much energy digesting it. Last thing I prioritize is minimally processed foods. This can overlap with protein and fiber, but not always necessarily. These foods are usually lower in calorie and higher in volume, which means that you can feel fuller and eat more of them for less calories, which is really helpful when you're in a calorie deficit in my experience. There are definitely still high calorie, minimally processed foods like nuts, oils, and some types of dairy, but usually we'll feel full pretty quickly eating these types of foods since they're not as palatable as ultra processed foods. It's easier for us to feel and notice when we're actually full and we've had enough, which is of course helpful for fat loss. If you want tons of ideas for minimally processed foods you can think about adding into your diet, I will link the nutrition cheat sheet down below, which you can download for free. It's available on our website, radianthealthfitness.com. The next thing that was really helpful for me was healthy swaps. Now, I have kind of a different approach to this than many people have, because for me, if I make a healthy swap for like a non-negotiable food that I really love, the healthy swap never satisfies me and it's just a terrible experience. So what I would do is take the high calorie ultra processed foods in my diet that I liked but didn't care that much about, like weren't my favorite thing I'm eating in the day or super important to me to prioritize, and find healthier swaps. So by healthier, I mean high in fiber, protein, or minimally processed, or maybe a combination of a few of those things. There are a couple of foods I loved so much, I needed to make room for them in my diet because they were non-negotiables for me. So one example of this is my iced coffee in the morning. I didn't want to use sugar-free syrup. I didn't want to use stevia or monk fruit. I certainly wasn't going to have it black or without sweetener. So I've just made room for that in my day. I know people say don't drink your calories. I don't care. This is important to me, and I make swaps elsewhere to prioritize something I really love. Another thing for me is pizza. I don't want a healthier pizza. I want a regular pizza. I want to enjoy it to the fullest, and for me, the healthy alternatives just never satisfy me. So that's just something I make room for every couple of weeks, and I have the original full out. The swaps only really work for me if I actually enjoy the thing I'm swapping in. So here are a few of the swaps that I've made that work for me. One thing is I used to eat a lot of chips and crackers as snacks, especially in the afternoon, and I've swapped in fruits and veggies. So I'll do like veggies with dip, banana with peanut butter, apple with peanut butter, that type of stuff. And at the start, it was like obviously not as good as a bag of chips or something like that, but I've gotten used to it and it hasn't been a huge deal to me because I didn't really care that much about the chips in the first place. I've also found a lot of lower calorie, higher protein dessert options that I really love. So one is these Greek yogurt ice cream bites from Costco. Those are really good. I also recently got a Ninja Creamy, which I've been obsessed with, so making high protein ice cream in there. And before that, I would just do protein milkshakes in the blender. So for me, that's a way to satisfy my sweet tooth while getting some extra protein and reducing my calories a little bit. But like if you're someone who loves ice cream and a Ninja Creamy protein ice cream is never gonna do it for you, I think it's better to prioritize and make room for that thing you really enjoy and make swaps elsewhere for things that you care less about. The next thing is making things simple with meal prep and planning. For me, picking a daily menu that I'm gonna have every day of the week has been really helpful for taking off the mental load of planning all of that. And I also like to honestly just eat the same things throughout the week because I'm just too lazy to have something different every single day. I'm personally a huge fan of food prep over meal prep. So you can prepare individual components like baked sweet potato, roasted veggies. You can cut and clean and prep all of your fruit and have it ready to go. That way you can combine things in different ways throughout the week so you won't get as sick of the meals you're eating. But lately I've been really busy and lazy and like time poor, so I've just been full out meal prepping and having the same thing every day. Preparing components of the dish all at once saves a lot of time on doing dishes and saves energy on cooking and cleaning the night of. So meal prep and food prep has been really helpful for me, as well as even just planning out your week and what you're gonna eat. So I really only need to have willpower once a week when I'm grocery shopping. After I spend 15 minutes or whatever planning my meals for the week and making a grocery list, I'll go in with a plan, and that, first of all, having a plan and a list sets me up for success so much more than if I go in and just pick random stuff. But I found that the only time I really need to have willpower during the week is when I'm grocery shopping, because if I fill my house with healthy foods that are high in protein, fiber, minimally processed, that will align with my goals and help me to reach my goals, then I'm lazy. So I'm just gonna eat the food that's in my house. I'm not gonna go out of my way to get these other foods. And sure, I do have a treat sometimes, or I'll go out to get a meal, go to a restaurant, whatever. But for the most part, I will just eat the foods that are accessible to me in my house. If at the grocery store, I get a ton of foods that are ultra processed, high in calorie, and kind of don't align with my goals as much, and I have those around in the house, then I spend all day telling myself that I can't have them. And I waste so much willpower trying not to have them. And it's just silly. So I like to just kind of use my willpower at the grocery store to get foods that align with my health, wellness, and fat loss goals. and then I can kind of just cruise through the rest of the week. Next, let's talk about mindful eating. Although I'm not perfect at it, I do try to eat mindfully, and the reason being, research shows that paying attention to what we're eating and eating mindfully can help us to feel fuller and more satisfied with less food. And this makes sense because it's easy to eat tons and tons of food while distracted and not even realize how much we're eating. I like to try to eat without distractions, no computer, phone, TV. I like to sit down and eat with my boyfriend whenever I can, because then we have a conversation. I'm not using any technology and I can focus and be more present. And I do tend to feel a lot more full and satisfied when I'm eating mindfully versus when I'm eating while multitasking. The last tool is making your nutrition part of your lifestyle. For me, it is essential that I can still socialize, eat out with friends, have fun, and enjoy my life while meeting my nutrition goals. So I don't want to say no to parties, events, restaurants, doing fun stuff. And I also want to reach my fat loss goals. So here's how I approach that. First thing, there's no shame in a pre-party, pre-dinner, pre-event snack. I love to have a protein shake, some fruit, some veggies with dip before I go out. I find that restricting leading up to the event is actually very ineffective because then I get there and I'm starving, so I just eat tons and tons of food, stuff that doesn't align with my goals. I can tend to overeat and it just creates a bad situation. So I will eat the full day leading up to a dinner or an event or party or whatever. If possible, I do try to pick out foods that have either fiber, protein, that are minimally processed, or maybe a combination of multiple of those three things. But if that's not an option, I just enjoy whatever food is there in moderation. And it really helps when I'm already feeling full and satisfied from the snack I had before the event. When in doubt, I just take a maintenance day. Sometimes I just want to have a fun night out and really enjoy myself without thinking about my nutrition at all. Not every single day needs to be perfect. Diet breaks are great for us both mentally and physically, so I will always just take a maintenance day when I need it. Coming up to summer, we all want to enjoy ourselves, enjoy our life, and I really think balance is the way to make any health and fitness goal sustainable for the long term. So I really challenge you to try to integrate this into your lifestyle so you can still have fun, enjoy yourself, spend time with friends and family, eat amazing, delicious food, but also reach your goals at the same time. The best time to start was yesterday, but the next best time is right now. I'm making this video because I had to go through a lot of trial and error to reach my fat loss goals, and I want you to be able to fast track and skip over all the mistakes that I made. But I also understand that these results take time. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that everyone will see the results they want in just 10 weeks or 75 days. Can you see great results in 10 weeks? Yes. Is it gonna take some people longer than 10 weeks to get the physique they want? Definitely yes. It totally depends on your starting point and your goal. Here's the thing, I don't think there's any way to lose here. Either you reach your goal, you get close to it, or you even just build some new healthy habits into your routine, and I think any of those things would be a win. Remember to download the free nutrition cheat sheet in the description down below. If you're looking for community, more content, challenges, daily menus, my direct support, and a community of people working on the same goals, make sure to check out the Radiant community. The link is down below. Remember, your first month is entirely risk-free. I would love to hear about your journey and your goals in the comments down below, so leave a comment and let me know what you're working on, what you're doing for this challenge. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to see more from me, hit subscribe, and I will see you next time.